Could the Thomas and Friends unaired pilot be released for the 80th anniversary? Let's discuss its history and possible future this pilot may have. The Thomas and Friends pilot, like the Missing Coach episode, are one of the few classic series produced works that we don't have. Along with concept art and BTS images, which we got a lot of recently, go check out my previous video on them, these works are two that the fandom wants to see desperately. The Missing Coach has been an ever-evolving case, so I recommend watching Nick Starwin's videos on the Missing Coach as they go into detail about almost everything with its situation. The pilot, however, I don't see much discussion about, partly due to we know almost everything about it and where it probably ends. So let's get into the history of the pilot itself, as it was from this very episode that Thomas and Friends was born. It all starts with Britt Allcroft, a television producer who fell in love with the books Thomas and Friends was based on, the Railway series. After floating the idea to the creator of the books, Reverend Wilbert Awdry, she gained the rights to produce a show in 1980. Wilbert was cautious at first, since the first run at making a TV version of his books didn't go so well. In 1953, the BBC tried to make a series based on them using 00 scale trains. It was a disaster and Wilbert hated it. It, however, is lost to time, and all we have to go off about its disaster are newspapers. After working out the best medium for the show, she decided models were the best. Clearwater Studios were hired and David Mitton was brought on as the show's director. It was decided to base the pilot episode off the story Down the Mine, and the stage was set. Models of Thomas and Gordon were made, with Henry being pitched but never going into development. The models used were scratch-built, including the wheels, and were more simplistic in appearance. They are made of plastic and not brass as per the later models. Gordon was especially different, with a much steeper slope front, and he didn't have a lamp irons, or a whistle. It is unknown if his tender had any major differences compared to his final model. Thomas's differences are a little harder to see, as the only footage we have of it is this long shot where you can barely make out the difference in body height from the chassis and the thicker side rods. Thomas was also missing his lamp irons, and the splashers were missing their red lining, and the cab's side windows would be missing their yellow lining. After filming the pilot, Christopher Knowlton refurbished Gordon's model, and it would later become the same model used in the first series. The pilot was successful, and ITV commissioned a 26-episode season, with Down the Mine being redone to become the 25th episode of the season. The pilot, after its first screening, was later handed to Rick Siggelkow in the late 1980s. He then showed it to his wife in a preschool, with the results being positive, which eventually led to launching Shining Time Station in the States to show Thomas to a new audience. Thomas became a massive hit, because this one pilot was made. Now, what happened to it? The pilot, after being handed off to Rick Siggelkow to test it in the States, disappeared. The only footage left were a few key scenes left in the final episode. Famously, the scene where Thomas goes back behind Knapford, as well as a bunch of close-up shots of Annie, the board, Thomas's whistle, and buffer beam, and Sir Topham Hatt. Many of these are only suspected to be from the pilot, but the Sir Topham Hatt ones are definitely from the episode, as Jacob, at Flying Pringle, recently revealed that he restored the original Sir Topham Hatt prop, as well as the two drivers next to him in these three shots. The drivers were restored a while ago, but it was wonderful to see Sir Topham Hatt refurbished. Other than those few pieces of media and the picture of the Gordon, there wasn't anything else. For a while, it was believed that Rick Siggelkow was no longer in possession of the pilot, as he said he turned in all of his Thomas the Tank Engine and Shining Time Station master tapes to Mattel. So naturally, that meant the pilot was with them as well. It seemed all was lost, until a user on the Thomas Wiki, going by the name Dan3435, posted emails he had with Alex Godfrey and Ian McHugh. Here, Ian revealed that the pilot was in fact in Mattel's storage in Southampton, and that they would be soon discussing restoring it for the 80th anniversary of the franchise. I found this out by watching Nick Starwin's video on the Missing Coach, and they were able to confirm that this conversation was real, and that the conversation was still ongoing about restoring the pilot. And that's where we're at now. So, after all of this, where are we now? We have major props from the pilot restored, concept art and BTS images revealed from the original series, and the possibility of the pilot being released and confirmed that it is in Mattel's storage. With what Mattel has done with the franchise recently, it hasn't shown much promise besides some of the toys. Hopefully the release of the pilot does come to fruition along with the Mark Forrester movie currently being worked on. However, more than likely the Barbie movie will probably decide if that movie ever continues production. Time will tell if we ever actually get to see the pilot for our favorite Blue Train show.